What's up, everybody? Ben Reza here for Odd Chopper, ready to talk about my favorite sport in the world to bet, and that is college football. How to bet it, tips and tricks. The season may be underway, the season may be getting started, but there are things that we need to know and things that we can do to give us the best chance to beat the books, to turn money into more money, to profit on the season. That's what I'm here to talk about. I've got a couple for you, including one that I honestly think it's later in the video, so make sure you stay tuned. I think it's the biggest angle in college sports that's most underutilized, not talked about enough. But let's dive into this. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Here we go. So we're going to get into a couple different concepts here. Let's take a wide look, because the first thing I want to talk about are the rosters in college sports, particularly college football. NFL, there's 32 teams. We can handle that. 32. You know how many teams there are in college football? 130 something. That's a lot of teams. That's a lot of players. And what happens? How do these teams form? Well, they get recruits. The good teams get the best recruits and they build their teams like that. Guys graduate, new players come in. But now in college sports, how do they do it? The transfer portal. What is the transfer portal? It's pretty simple. You're the quarterback for the University of Washington and you say, man, this sucks. I'm sitting on the bench. I look down and South Carolina needs a quarterback next year. Boom. I'm going to transfer. I'm going to change schools and play for them. You're not punished for that anymore. You don't have to sit out. It's the Wild West. There are so many moving parts. So what does this mean? When you're prepping for games, you're prepping for teams, you can't just look at production lost. A team could have an entire new roster and be better because of the portal. And let's use a real world example from 2023. Colorado. Colorado's awful. They've been awful for a while. So what did they do? Brought in Deion. Deion Sanders takes over the program. And what did he do? He said to the whole team, sorry, I don't want you guys, basically. He basically got rid of everyone. He said, transfer, you're not going to play. Why? Because what did he do? He brought in dozens and dozens of players from the portal. Some from Jackson State with him, others from all over the country. He's got recruits. If you look at Colorado, they basically have no production returning anywhere. And if you didn't know what you were this angle, you would say, man, this team that struggled is probably going to be even worse. They have no one returning. They're actually going to be better in a rebuilding year because of the portal. And it's not just them. They're the most extreme example. There are so many teams where you look and you say, wow, they lost a quarterback. You have to check to make sure they didn't portal someone who's even better, because that can change the entire dynamic of the season. Now, how do we find this information? There's no great answer. Certainly here at Odd Chopper, try to keep you up to date. Google, get on social media, just try to dig the best you can, but figure out teams that have made big splashes in the portal. They will be undervalued. If teams do not gel, they could be overvalued. That is just the first step in understanding what we're doing here and how to be successful at betting college sports. But let's keep it going. Let's get into the next part of this again, because there's a lot to get to. But the schedule in college football, how do teams do it? Well, they play non-conference games basically early, typically. Then you get into your conference schedule. So non-con games are pretty random. Anyone can play anyone. Then you get into your conference games and you see what's what. But there are so many teams. How does it really go? So I think basically on a simplistic view, if you're a small school, most likely you sacrifice yourself to the gods and you play someone on the road and you get destroyed for a lot of money. It helps your program. You don't have aspirations in non-con. You're looking to win your conference. And then for the big schools, it's good for them. They get warm-up games. You know, they can beat up on some easy schools, get some reps, and they'll be ready for conference season. So I actually want to bring up a book to illustrate this. Let's look. Here's an example of some week 1 lines. San Jose State plus 30.5. Look at Kent State, 34.5 point underdogs to UCF. What do you think is going to happen in that game? Pretty good authority they'll be getting blown out. Maybe by 28, maybe by 40. It doesn't matter. Why are they doing that? Why do you think? Because they need the money. And Kent State is actually the team I want to talk about. That's why I brought this up. Let's look at Kent State from 2022. So they play out of the MAC, one of the worst conferences, but you start in non-con. So what did they do? They played Long Island, which is not an FBS school. They won 63-10, played at Washington, at Oklahoma, and at Georgia. That's not possible. Those are impossible games for a team like Kent State. Shocking, they lost all 3. So they're 1-3 heading into conference play. If you took a really cursory look, you would look and say, man, Kent State's going to be rough for them. They're already 1-3. And, you know, I don't like them in conference. Big mistake. Why? Because there's nothing to learn from those first 4 games. They could be amazing. They're still not going to beat teams like Washington and Georgia and Oklahoma, and they're never going to lose to Long Island. So you get them against level of competition that's similar. And we saw immediately that Kent State was undervalued last year when they played the Ball States of the world, the Akrons of the world, teams that are on their level. But when you looked at their non-con, you got a false kind of conclusion that they were terrible because of their competition. It's the same with other teams. Look at some of the big schools. They beat up on 3 or 4 schools that really have no athletes to compete at this type of level. Then you think, man, oh, they're 4-0. They beat everyone by 4 touchdowns. They must be amazing. They get into conference play. Not so simple. You can find little edges like that. It doesn't mean blindly back all the teams that lose all their non-con games. That would be stupid. But what it does mean, dig into what happened. Look at the schedule, because there are teams from the MAC, teams from the Sun Belt, these smaller conferences. They're playing impossible situations. It means nothing for how good and how successful they'll be in conference play. And some of them will be underutilized. One of my favorite angles is taking teams that have to play those type of games early in the season and betting them early in conference play after people have soured on them through no fault of their own. I think that is a great thing that is not talked about enough. And these examples, Kent State against UCF, that type of mentality, that doesn't mean anything. No matter what happens, they could lose by 80. It doesn't affect their conference play. It doesn't affect when they get in there against MAC programs. And that is something that you can really take advantage of. So in addition to the rosters, look at the schedules. Now, I've got one more, and I think this is the most important angle in all of college sports that I'm going to be talking about in just a second. But I do want to say one quick thing. This is not just for college sports. This is just a public service announcement, if you will. It's really difficult no matter what you're betting. There are offers out there. There are boosts out there. There are promos out there. The books want your business. They're not stupid. They're all vying for your business. And we want the flexibility to shop lines. It's a win-win. Take advantage of all those offers out there. You don't have to sign up for everyone, but find the ones that work for you, that make sense for you. Doesn't matter where you do it. That's the truth. We have links in the description of this video. Simplest way to do it is just click there and look at them, see which one apply to you. You can also go to oddchopper.com/Ben. The offers will pull up for you, but it doesn't matter. Just don't leave money on the table. Don't look back and say, man, I had a kind of a break-even year, but if I would have taken advantage of all those offers, my bankroll would be double what it is, triple what it is. It's there for the taking. Be smart with it. Again, the links are below. See which ones make sense for you. I absolutely recommend that. But now, I said to you twice already, strongest angle, I think, in how to bet college sports, how to bet college football. And this is not just for college football. This is for college basketball too. Become a specialist. What does that mean? Become a specialist. Kind of heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. What does that mean? It means you know a lot about, everything, but you're not an expert in anything. And that's super dangerous with 130 teams. That's super dangerous in college basketball. There's 350 teams. I'm not even going to talk about that. That's next level. How is it possible that you're going to be able to know all the injuries, all the weather, the depth charts, the personnel, what's going on with 130 different teams? The answer is you're not going to be able to know. It's just too much information. This is not the NFL. Injury reporting is murky at best. You just can't keep that type of stuff in check unless you're a specialist. Unless you say, I'm not going to focus on 130 teams. I'm going to focus on 10 teams, 20 teams, one conference, 2 conferences. Just going to drill down. I'm going to learn the beat writers. I'm going to know the personnel. I'm going to know the schedules. I'm going to know the depth charts. And then what's going to happen? Doors are going to open for you. I guarantee you, you do that, you're going to start to see things that don't make sense out there. You're going to say, man, I know this team better than most. Their quarterback's been banged up all year. Why are they favorite here? Because the books, honestly, some of those lines are inefficient. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying it's inside information. I'm not saying it's not factored in. But what I am saying is there are angles that will appear if you're on top of it, if you know where to look, if you have beat writers that can get you, this guy's in street clothes, this guy hasn't been practicing. For a team that no one's paying attention to, this is the way to do it. Pick a couple. It could be your favorite conference. It could be the most random conference you can think of. Do the Sun Belt if you want. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're getting that information, that you become an expert on a couple different angles, and you use that to your advantage. You don't have to win every game. That's the thing with college football. There's 60 plus games sometimes on Saturdays. How are you going to deal with all that? Focus on 8 games, 4 games, 2 games. Really know in and outs of certain teams, and I promise you, you will be more successful this year when betting college sports. So quick recap before we get out of here. Roster construction, know about the portal, know where to get that information. be aware of the schedules. Not everyone plays everyone. You play in all different levels of competition. False narratives appear all the time depending on who you played early in non-con. You take advantage of that. And then the angle of all angles to me, become a specialist. Don't be stupid. Don't try to be an expert in 130 teams. It can't be done. I can't do it. If you can do that, you don't need to be watching this. You need to get in contact with me and let me know how you're doing it, because I would love to see that. But it's very, very difficult to do that. Pick some teams, pick a conference, become an expert. Let's have a successful year. It can be done. I love college football. I think it's the most profitable betting sport out there, if not, one of the most profitable. It's a great angle and it's a hell of a sweat. And I hope you're better equipped to tackle it this year. For me, for OddsShopper, and for all of you guys, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, hit me up at JazzRazDFS. Let's just have a big year ahead. Stay tuned for even more content each and every day here at OddsShopper. And of course, I'll talk to you guys soon.